My name is Trenton Quiocho, and I'm from Tacoma, Washington. This week, I'm exploring Filipino textile and traditional fish traps and motifs, and kind of reimagining traditional forms and sculptures into a new body of work made out of glass, kind of honoring my Filipino heritage. So I think the fish traps, just in general, just the shapes are they're really interesting. And then you throw in the texture and the patterns of the elements of it woven together. It's like individually they look good. If you just separate them together, it looks even better. But I'm learning a lot in the residency because part of me is like, maybe I should just focus on the form. Part of me is like, focus on the pattern. So it's like, it's a lot of new ideas that I've never worked on. Got another small chunk, and then
body's all gonna be one piece.
Yeah, but the legs I want brung as bits.
So there'd be a body, legs, under the body.
Yeah.
Kind of column.
Well, I'm thinking we just turn that. I kind of want to do like the sitting form. So I don't know, like basically like take that, kind of pull it into like a flattened piece. I don't know, like a Z almost, you know what I mean? And then the head goes on here, you know, for it. I think it's hot enough still. All over, hit it. I take a weird approach sometimes, and like I just make what I want to make. It kind of comes off the fly, and there will be some sketches and you know, color application, like deciding what colors I'm going to use. But for the most part, it's kind of freestyle, and then I'll make something, and then it won't work out very well the first time, and then it's like the second time it works out great, and then the third time it went back a step. But it's always nice to go back to previous ideas and kind of build off of those. Yeah, I think being a teacher or an educator, it can be difficult at times because, you know, kids are mean, and it's hard to reach them. But it's these relationships that you build with these people over, you know, 6-7 years sometimes, and it just kind of grows. And they start off as your students, and then eventually they become your friends. And you know, a lot of them, you know, came in at 13, and now they're 22. Yeah, let's do that. Make a big, wide collar. And, you know, there's always ones that, like, give you hard times, but, you know, there's always a few cases where they come back and thank you. You don't always get that, but, like, that definitely makes you want to do it more, you know. Having an opportunity to come here and work with the all-star team, you know, Sarah, Gabe, and Ben, is definitely a huge step in my career. I mean, and coming up through as a young person coming in here at 15, and then now 15 years later being the person at the center bench as the artist has been kind of so. Yeah, don't sweat it. It's lunchtime, folks.
Greetings, my name is Jabari Owens-Bailey. I work here as Curatorial Education Program Manager, and today I want to introduce Trenton Quiocho. He is our latest visiting artist, part of a visiting artist lecture series that we run throughout the year. And Trenton is a Tacoma-based artist. He's the owner of Pilchuck Glass. He has worked at Chihuly Boathouse in Seattle. He's the current production and hotshot manager at Hilltop Heritage, which is our local glass blowing school up on the hilltop that teaches young kids how to blow glass. Trenton worked as a lead instructor for the Hot Shop Heroes program here at Museum of Glass for several years, which is a program where we take military, active military, as well as veterans who are dealing with trauma or dealing with injury, and teach them how to blow glass as a means of healing. He was also the recipient of the John and Mary Shirley Foundation Scholarship at Pratt, also the Emerging Artist Award here at Museum of Glass, and most recently, he was featured on this season of Netflix's hit show, Blown Away. And so, one last thing, this year he was the featured artist for our Red Hot fundraiser here at Museum of Glass. So Trenton has many accolades and many firm connections to Museum of Glass. So we look forward to hearing what he has to say about his work, and hopefully his residency here at Museum of Glass has been fruitful.
Thank you, Jabari. Welcome, everyone. My name is Trenton Quiocho, and I am the guest artist here at the Museum of Glass this week. I think Jabari said a lot of what I wanted to talk about at first, but yeah, I'm a Tacoma-based artist, born and raised in Tacoma, Washington. I went to Silas High School, formerly Wilson High School, and it was there through the Hilltop Artists program. Well, I got it backwards. Through the Hilltop Artists program that I got started in working with glass. It's been a pretty busy year. So last September, I won the People's Choice Award, and with this award, I won a 1-week residency here at the Museum of Glass, and so that's why I'm here this week, which is an amazing opportunity, and we actually have this year's winner sitting in the front row. Yeah. So it's a huge opportunity to be able to come down here and use this facility and work with the team down here. So this is a photo of myself and a couple of my colleagues, David Rios and Tony Sorgenfree. But this is the studio that I started in. This is at Silas High School. And I think in this picture, I was the guest artist. But for those of you that don't know, Hilltop Artists is a nonprofit in Tacoma, Washington, that uses glass arts to kind of lure kids, I guess, into staying in the program and working with our mentors. You know, we try to get them to better futures. But that's how I got started. As Jabari said, I also not only work at Hilltop Artists as an educator working with youth, I've worked with the Hot Shop Heroes program here at the Museum of Glass, where we work with military veterans, a lot of them suffering from trauma, I guess you would say. So not only like PTSD, but also a lot of these people have been injured over there fighting in the wars. So I think, at least for me and a lot of people that I work with, military veterans or students, we find the material very therapeutic. It takes a lot of focus and teamwork to be able to work in this medium. And so even though we're only with these military veterans a few hours a night, like once or twice a week, it gives them an opportunity to kind of clear their minds, I guess. So the next few slides are just some of my earlier work, and I kind of wanted to show you this because a lot of people don't understand, a lot of students don't understand it takes a lot of time and work to get to where you're at, and there's a lot of failures along the way, and I think some people handle failure differently. But this is an old Raticello bowl. This is probably 2014. So I like making a lot of functional glassware, but I also like sculpting glass. Lots of kind of cane patterns you can see. And, you know, all this kind of learning and the process of learning how to create patterns kind of leads to where I'm at today. A lot of inspiration from visiting artists here at the Museum of Glass over the years. This is one of my first crabs I sculpted after I took a class up at Pilchuck Glass School with Raven Sky River. But over the years, the skills have gotten a little better, and the photos, I realized that you got to take better photos of your work as well. This piece was done at my first, it was a group residency at Corning Museum of Glass in 2018. So I made this vessel, and then one of the other artists, who was a Czech engraver, Pavlina Chambalova, engraved the glass. There was also another artist, Erica Tata, who was a caster, and so we were all working together to create new bodies of work using all three processes of casting, engraving, and blowing glass. But this is the it's like a netted bowl using that Raticello pattern, and kind of, yeah, I guess the first rendition of what kind of probably led to these Filipino fish traps. There's lots of other techniques that I like to use. So besides creating patterns with cane, you're also able to create patterns using the canes and bundling them, and you'll pull them into these little squares or circles of Marini. And this is one of the first kind of more figurative sculptures I did on this rooster series that I had. And one of these pieces last year is what won me the Coney People's Choice Award. But anytime you make something in here, it's kind of you're learning from it. And so hopefully you learn the process better, and the work gets better over time. So the crab got a little better. Photos are a little better. This was the first time I did like a solid sculpted buffalo. This was the first and only piece I made in 2020, and then the pandemic hit. But this is all made on the pipe, and then I would, after it was cooled off, I would use the engraving lathe and the cold shop to kind of grind more detail into it. And it's got a matte finish on it, so it's sandblasted and then pumiced. During the shutdowns was the first time that I hadn't blown glass. It was the longest period. I think it was like 5 or 6 months where I wasn't in the hot shop working. And it gave me a lot of time to like think about what I was doing as a glass craftsperson artist. Like, I think you seen that video earlier about what I did last residency, just not really having a direction and kind of experimenting with different things. And you can see with the glass, it's kind of just all over the place. But it was during this time that I realized that I needed to focus on what I wanted to do, you know, with my art. But I started Basso Glass, and this is more functional glassware that's more affordable than my artwork, I would say. So we have these pineapples with an air plant holder on the left, and these bowls that are inspired by the mango colors on the right. But it's also, I like making, you know, art to sell in galleries, but I also enjoy the craft side of glass. Some of these things are actually in the gift shop too, if you want to take a look at those. So like I said, during that time, I tried to figure out what I wanted to do as an artist in glass. And that's when I started looking into my Filipino heritage and identity. And so that's where I was drawing inspiration from. So my family, my grandmother and my grandfather are both from Filipino backgrounds in different areas of the Philippines. But on the right is actually one of the immigration cards for my great-grandfather who came over with his family. And you can see my grandma is Lourdes, 10 years old right there. But they immigrated to Hawaii to work on the plantations. This is a piece I made in 2018, and it was inspired by Filipino immigrants that immigrated to Hawaii to work on the sugarcane plantations. And so it's the first time where I try to create that imagery. The first Filipino immigrants to Hawaii were called cicadas. And so this piece is titled Cicada, and it's about an immigrant family. And this was also made at that group residency at Corning. So Eric, Pavlina was the one who engraved the image. I kind of gave a rough sketch of it, and she carved it out, and then we assembled it in the hot shop. But it's supposed to represent bamboo and sugar cane. So the first buffalo I made was like an American bison, and then this one is a Filipino water buffalo. It's called a carabao. It's this piece right here, but same process, solid sculpted off the pipe and then cold work and engraved. So during my 2021 residency here in July, was the first time that I got to experiment down here. It was my first solo residency. And like I said, the pandemic was, in a ways it was a good thing for me because I had time to think about what I was doing. And so I ended up doing a lot of research through books and a lot of expensive books that were imported because I'm so far removed from that heritage and culture that that one of my only resources is books right now. I have a lot of friends that are kind of local in this area, and there's a lot more. There's elders in the Native communities around here, and you can see the art in person. So I find it somewhat challenging trying to do the research, but I enjoy reading and trying to figure things out. But this is a textile from the Philippines, from Ilocos Norte, which is where part of my family immigrated from, and they would make these textiles called inabel. And so some of the works from last year's residency were inspired by those kind of things. It was a lot of experimenting and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So we pulled flat cane and made these patterns, and then the museum team rolled them up. They made these cylinders, which would be cut and slumped into these sheets of glass. This piece is probably, I think it's 13 by like 23 inches. So they're quite large. They went a little larger than I wanted, but still don't know what I'm going to do with these. And then if you were here earlier, this is what I was kind of the inspiration for the sculpture. These are known as balo. They're Filipino rice deities, and they're normally there's normally a pair. There's usually a male and a female figure, and this is in the Luzon area of the Philippines. The Ifugao people have some of the oldest and largest rice terraces in the country of the Philippines, and I think 75% of the rice is produced in that area. and you'll see photos of these valleys that are just terraces of rice. But they would put these deities out during planting of the rice harvest and keep them up through the harvest time, and they would make offerings to them. And they're traditionally carved out of wood, and they're usually seated or standing. And through reading about pre-colonial Philippine culture, they had a different way of believing in. They believed like everything had its own spirit and life to it, not only plants and animals, but like these wooden sculptures as well. So that's the inspiration for the piece with the Bolol figure and the bull. And this is from last year's residency. And so we're going to try to make one of these after we take lunch. That's a finished piece. So we had the team make the bowl, and then we stuck a puck on the inside, and then I had the below figure already sculpted, and we attached it and assembled it. And it was also at that residency that we started doing these fish trap forms, which are inspired by traditional Philippine fish traps that are usually woven out of rattan or like bamboo, natural fibers. And that's us making one last year. But I used a lot of traditional Italian glass making, where we pull lines of glass called cane to create patterns. So this shape you'll see a lot. I really like this one. And like Walt was saying, these ones are used normally in like the rice paddy, in the rice fields. So they'll put these out in the evening and then pull them out in the morning. And it's just like these little fish that they catch in them. But I really like just the texture and the shape of these things. I think are really beautiful. So the next slides are just different ones that we did last residency. So, the whole idea behind last year's residency and even now is just exploring my cultural identity. And so the Trap series, it's we're doing a continuation of that series because I felt like it wasn't finished. And all the pieces that you see out here right now, well, most of them hopefully will be used in this group show next year at Art Exchange Gallery. And towards the end, you'll see I normally display these in sand because a lot of them don't have any kind of flat spot or bottom to them, so they kind of roll around. But I like that kind of organic shape to it. So this has been a busy year, and I think a year ago today I was in Canada filming Blown Away Season 3. These are some of the images and some of the work created during my time in Canada. We made some banana cups. This piece is actually on display at the Corning Museum of Glass right now, which is pretty cool to have my work displayed out there. I also curated my first show at Tacoma Art Museum. This is a photo of Gather, 27 years of Hilltop Artists. So not only am I a glass artist and an educator, but I also, I guess I can be considered a curator as well now. But this was an opportunity that I kind of came up with, and it was during the pandemic that I reached out to Tacoma Art Museum. It took a long time, and it turned into something better than I had imagined. But it was a way for me to highlight artists within my own community here in Tacoma. And all the artists were alumni from the Hilltop Artists program. And so it was also a way for me to give back to my mentors and colleagues and even my students. These were the fish traps that I had made last year on display during that show at the Tacoma Art Museum. And you could see what I meant. They're like displayed in this black sand. And that's it. Does anyone have any? Okay. Oops. Does anyone have any questions? That's a good question. I'm kind of split down the middle. I like making functional work, and I also like making sculptural work, like the carabao or this lidded jar here. I think a lot of artists in glass usually pick kind of one lane. They're either like a glass blower or a craftsperson or a glass sculptor. I think Tony said it best. I tend to I'm the Blade Runner, and I kind of do a little bit of everything. I dropped out of college to pursue glass and worked in a factory. I've worked in Seattle for a number of years, worked for Dale Chihuly. So kind of self-taught in a lot of ways, and I'm still learning all the time how to be a better glass maker, but also an artist. And that's why this week focusing more on just one thing instead of a bunch of things is different, but it's, I think, is more successful to focus on. I just focused on the fish traps this week, which is a better use of my time. And my fiance always tells me, she's always like, you make one-offs of everything. You gotta try to complete a series, and then you can move on to the next thing. So yeah, I like to make a little bit of everything. That's a good question. I enjoy being an educator and working with youth. For the most part, is fun, and I enjoy it. You're always going to have some kids that you really don't enjoy working with, I guess. But that's just how it is. I think I learn just as much from them as they learn from me. And yeah, I really, really enjoy it. And they keep you on your toes, and they keep it fun. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question. Do we have a question over here? Oh, that's a good question. So when I first started blowing glass, the funny thing is, I always thought it had to be blown glass. It always had to be hot. And like I said, I'm always learning. And I appreciate all the different ways in which you can work glass, whether it's hot or cold or glued. And I don't hate cold working. A lot of the work is finished in the cold shop now.
enjoy being in the hot shop more, I think, than being in the cold shop, just because it's just more fun, I guess. It's more flashy. It's like neon. It's, it's like here, they have an amazing cold shop, but you can't see it. It's on the other side of here. But it's so much a part of blowing glass, I think Lino said it best. He said, you can be good as a glass artist by blowing glass, but if you want to be great, you have to learn how to cold work. So there's so much more that you can do with cold working too. So whenever we finish a piece, it's on the pipe and it has a punty mark, and it's sharp. So the process of cold working is very similar to like stone polishing. So you'll grind that off using rough diamond wheels that are water fed, and then you can bring it up to a full polish, depending on how you want to finish the work. It's always hot, and then it's annealed, and then once it's room temperature, then you can take it back to the cold shop. And then some of my work is even, I'll make it in the hot shop, like these crocodile heads are actually sand casted, and then I cold worked them a little bit, and you can take glass and bring it back up to about 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're able to then attach it to something hot again. So you can go back and forth, and some works take a lot of time. I don't know if you'll ever get your money's worth out of spending all that time, but for me, I think it's more about the process and working with the people, and I create things that I like to create, and so even if I don't sell it, I think that's us as creatives. Yeah. Lots of different processes. Some of these are, the fish traps are mainly just line work and pattern work. The buffalo is a solid, transparent cup that's filled with clear glass and then sculpted, and then that jar is mostly powdered glass. So there's different ways to work the material, for sure. We'll go to the front row first. I'm still processing it all. I don't know. I haven't been very active on social media as other artists that have been on the show. It's been a very busy year for me, but who knows what will happen with that and what kind of opportunities. I don't think I would do it again. I don't think reality TV's for me per se. Yeah. It was an interesting experience, and the most fun I had was every day after filming it, we would hang out. The artists, and we would hang out afterwards. Yeah. That's a good question. Well, I've been doing it for 17 years now. And I would say that first piece that I did in 2018 was the first time that I started looking into inspiration for my cultural identity, being a Filipino American. A long time, I never considered myself an artist. I thought of myself as a crafts person, and that's how I started, and that's why I think I enjoy functional bowls and cups. I enjoy making those as much as I enjoy making, the fish traps or the sculptures. What changed? I think, over time everyone changes, and I realized that if I wanted to pursue glass as a career and be an artist, I had to evolve and change the way I think and the process of how I do things. Any other questions? You got a question? No? You sure? Anyone else? Okay. Well, I just want to thank the Museum of Glass for this opportunity. Thank the team. Thank my friends over here that are down here helping me. We're going to take lunch, and then we will be back, I think, around 2:30 or so, and we will do another Balol sculpture with the rice deity. So if you're around, come watch. It'll be a long process, but it should be fun.